This mean person named Sil was bothering me and said I cheated, which almost ruined my new marriage. Now she's surprised that we're not giving her any money when we die, and she's acting like she's the one who got hurt. I'm a 29-year-old woman, and I recently had a big wedding with my husband Finn, who's 30. Everything was going great in our first month of marriage until Finn's sister, Sil, messed things up. Let me give you some background. Finn's sister, Deborah, who's 28, is divorced. I've always had a tough time with her. She's very negative, manipulative, and not nice to be around. I've been careful to avoid upsetting her because she can be really mean. She's always complaining about our in-laws, but they're not as bad as she says. She's always talking about how terrible her life is, blaming others for her problems, like bosses or old friends. She never admits when she's wrong and always wants people to feel sorry for her. 6 months back, we learned that Deborah's marriage was falling apart because she had a gambling problem. It was a big surprise because no one knew she was gambling. She kept it hidden and used her husband's money to pay off her debts secretly, but when he found out about the missing money, he confronted her. Even though he tried to help her stop, she didn't listen. Eventually, they had to get divorced. After that, things got even worse. She became really hard to be around, and her addiction changed her personality for the worse. The divorce didn't help her. It made her even more difficult to deal with and made her chances of getting better seem bleak. I always try to stay neutral and supportive when I'm around Deborah because I don't want her to get angry with me. She lives far away from us, so we only see her once or twice a year. But as soon as Finn and I got engaged, Deborah's attitude toward me changed. It started when she got upset when we announced our engagement during Christmas last year. Later, she said sorry and explained that our news made her feel bad about her own past relationships. Even though she was hesitant at first, she agreed to be a bridesmaid at our wedding. It seemed like she was supportive, but there were still some underlying tensions. Even though she agreed to be a part of the wedding, Deborah started ignoring me whenever we saw each other. She still joined in on wedding activities like dress shopping and my bridal shower, but she criticized everything about the wedding out loud. Both my future mother-in-law and fiancé talked to her about her behavior, but it didn't change. I tried talking to her gently about it, but she brushed me off and said nothing was wrong. Before our wedding, my in-laws planned a family vacation. I was worried about spending so much time with Sil because she was causing me stress. During the vacation, she was in a bad mood and lashed out at everyone. She even wanted to rearrange the furniture in the room we were staying in because she didn't like how it was set up. Sometimes Deborah's parents and my partner would go along with her unreasonable requests because they were scared of her anger issues. They hoped that giving in to her demands would make her stop complaining. After a few days of dealing with her behavior during the vacation, I was getting fed up and just wanted to avoid her. But she noticed and got upset when I politely turned down some advice she was giving me about my job, which I didn't ask for. She accused me of being rude in front of everyone. I told her firmly that I'm good at my job, which is why I earn good money, and I didn't need her advice. I was really surprised by her boldness, especially since she didn't know anything about my job but still felt entitled to give me advice. For the rest of the trip, she kept trying to talk to me about how I had supposedly been rude to her. My partner told me that whenever I went to bed, she would talk to my mother-in-law and him, complaining about me. She said I always treated her like she was stupid and talked down to her. My partner tried to explain my side of things, but she didn't want to listen and accused him of changing because of me. When our vacation was over, I was relieved because I thought I wouldn't have to deal with Deborah anymore. I tried not to dwell on what happened and focused on getting ready for the wedding, but then I found out that Deborah had decided to stay longer. She spent her time spreading rumors about me to my fiancé's relatives. I didn't mind too much until one of his cousins called to ask about a crazy rumor Deborah had told them, saying I wasn't taking care of my fiancé and he was unhappy with me. My fiancé reassured them that it wasn't true and he was happy with me. It was obvious that Deborah was trying to make people think I was a bad person. My fiancé and I talked about it, and he was frustrated with Deborah's manipulative behavior. He agreed that her actions were causing problems and hurting our relationship with his family. I didn't want all this negativity around me, especially on my wedding day, so I invited my in-laws and Deborah out for lunch to talk about everything openly. Unfortunately, my partner couldn't be there because he had an important work trip. During the lunch, I told Deborah firmly that if she kept saying bad things about me, she wouldn't be invited to the wedding. When Deborah heard this, she started yelling at me, saying I had no right to talk to her like that. My mother-in-law asked her to calm down, but Deborah kept yelling, saying I was just a poor girl who got lucky marrying her rich brother, so I should show her more respect. I was shocked when Deborah accused me of only being interested in her brother for his money, calling me a gold digger. My mother-in-law stepped in and firmly told Deborah to be quiet, scolding her for speaking to me that way. Even my father-in-law looked upset and apologized to me for her behavior. But Deborah kept arguing, saying I was trying to steal from their family's inheritance. I interrupted to remind her that I was financially independent and came from a wealthy family myself. While we might not be as rich as my fiance's family, we still lived comfortably. I told her that her attitude came from her thinking we were less well off because we were immigrants. Deborah looked surprised and started to stumble over her words, not knowing what to say. I told her firmly that this was her last chance to change. If she kept acting this way, my fiancé and I would have to uninvite her from the wedding. She looked angry, but she didn't say anything else. After our talk that day, I went home feeling upset. When my fiancé came back from his work trip, he could tell something was wrong and asked me about it. I told him what happened with Deborah, and he was really surprised and angry. He said Deborah had no right to treat me like that. He called his parents and they all agreed that Deborah's behavior was out of control. They decided to investigate further to see what was going on with her. They quietly talked to some of her friends to find out more. It turns out she was still gambling a lot, even though she had promised to stop. This worried all of us, especially her parents, who had given her access to their bank account. They were worried she would spend all their money on gambling. Finn decided to have a serious talk with her. It was hard, but he wanted her to get help for her gambling problem. However, Deborah refused to admit she had a serious problem. The situation was getting messier. When his parents took away her access to their bank account, Deborah got really angry. She went to their house yelling at them, accusing them of betraying her. She said they didn't understand her and that her gambling was none of their business. Deborah was furious that they had taken away her access to their bank account, saying it was her money too. She even claimed they were all trying to control her life. It was a chaotic scene, with emotions running high, and there was no calming her down. Finn shared with me how worried he was about Deborah. He and his parents were unsure if anything they did would actually help her. They thought about things like interventions, counseling, and support groups, but they knew Deborah wouldn't agree to any of it. A few weeks later, Finn's parents invited us over for dinner, and we could tell it was going to be a serious conversation. As we sat down, they looked more serious than ever. They talked about how worried they were about Deborah's gambling addiction and how it could drain the family's money. They didn't want to enable her destructive habits by leaving her any of their inheritance. Finn tried to argue that it might not be fair because, despite everything, he still loved her. I agreed with Finn because, no matter how I felt about Deborah, I thought she should get an equal share of the inheritance. Finn's mother interrupted us and nervously revealed that some of her precious jewelry from her grandmother was missing. They were worried because the jewelry was worth a lot of money, so they decided to check the security footage. They saw Deborah going into their bedroom and taking the jewelry from the safe. We were all shocked and silent as we tried to process what had happened. Finn's parents said they tried to talk to Deborah about it, but she refused to admit she did anything wrong, even though there was evidence. That's why they decided not to leave her anything in their inheritance. Finn was surprised, but he understood how serious the situation was. Deborah's actions had not only strained our family relationships but were now causing financial problems for his family too. We finally understood why Finn's parents were thinking about changing their will to make sure Deborah couldn't get their money. It was a hard choice for them, but they believed it was necessary to keep their money safe for the family's future. Finn and I supported them because we knew it was a tough but important thing to do to protect everyone. In the next few days, Finn and his parents talked to lawyers to figure out how to change their will. They wanted to make sure it was legally strong and that Deborah couldn't argue against it. Meanwhile, our wedding was getting closer, so I focused on getting everything ready. I was busy with dress fittings, decorations, and all the little things that needed to be done. Suddenly, Deborah started getting involved in wedding stuff, like when I went dress shopping and had my bridal shower. She criticized everything about the wedding planning out loud. Again, I had to talk to her gently about this because I don't like conflict, and asked if I did something wrong. As the wedding day got closer, despite Deborah's negativity, our ceremony turned out to be a beautiful celebration of love. The venue looked stunning with flowers and decorations, making it feel magical. Surrounded by friends and family, Finn and I said our vows, promising to love each other forever. But even with all the happiness, I couldn't ignore how unhappy Deborah seemed. She sat in a corner looking mad, which made me feel uneasy. But the love and support from everyone else made our wedding a special memory, even with Deborah's negativity. After a lovely honeymoon, we settled back into our daily routines. Work and normal life kept us busy, and things seemed calm. But out of nowhere, my sister-in-law did something to stir up trouble in our marriage. She invited herself over for dinner, saying she missed us and hadn't seen Finn in a while. Finn asked if I was okay with it, and even though I wasn't thrilled, I agreed because I didn't want to be rude. During dinner, Deborah suddenly started talking about how much she hated cheaters and said they were worthless. We were confused about why she was bringing this up. Then she looked me straight in the eye and asked me something that caught me off guard. As Deborah accused me of being unfaithful with my coworker Matt, I felt confused and frustrated. She waved around pictures she had taken of me and my coworker, claiming they proved our affair. But as I looked at the photos, I could see they were innocent snapshots of us just having coffee or lunch together. My coworker and I often grabbed a quick bite outside because the cafeteria lines were too long. Deborah twisted these innocent moments into evidence of an affair. I knew her accusations were unfounded, and I felt annoyed that she was trying to damage my reputation and my relationship with Finn. Before I could say anything, Finn stepped in, shocked and upset. He asked Deborah why she was following me around and taking pictures of me without my permission. Deborah tried to justify her actions by saying she was investigating me to make sure I wasn't after Finn's money. Finn firmly told her that her claims were nonsense and causing unnecessary drama. He tried to reason with her, asking her to stop spreading lies and trying to harm our relationship. But Deborah wouldn't stop. She kept accusing me of cheating and manipulating Finn. She even said she was trying to protect him from me because she thought I was only interested in his money. Things got really tense as she kept making these accusations. Then she showed Finn a screenshot of a conversation she claimed to have had with someone from my workplace on Facebook. In the screenshot, she had asked if my coworker and I were having an affair, and the person had said we seemed suspiciously close, suggesting it might be possible. She showed this to Finn, insisting he needed to protect himself and painting me as a threat to our marriage. Finn looked puzzled as he glanced at the screenshot. Despite my sincere explanation that the photos were innocent, his trust seemed shaken, caught between family loyalty and conflicting stories. I started to argue that Deborah was making up lies to ruin our marriage. But then, to my surprise, Finn turned to me and asked if I really had nothing to do with the man in the pictures. I was shocked that he would even ask me that, as I had never given him a reason to doubt me before. Deborah started taunting me, saying I was speechless because I knew her accusations were true and I had been caught lying. I yelled at Deborah to leave, but Finn said I couldn't talk to his sister that way. I was taken aback by his response and told him that if he didn't believe me, he could leave with his sister because I couldn't change his mind. The tension in the room kept rising as Deborah kept accusing me of stealing her brother and living a luxurious life without truly loving him. Her words were really getting on my nerves. I couldn't believe she was making up such crazy lies to ruin our marriage. At that point, I felt like I had nothing left to lose. So, with a smirk, I turned to her and told her she had an unhealthy obsession with her big brother and was going to extreme lengths this time. She tried to deny it, but I interrupted her, pointing out how sad it was that her own family wasn't as obsessed with her as she was with everyone else's lives. Then I dropped the bombshell. Finn and her parents were considering changing their will. They were thinking about redirecting the family inheritance away from her. Deborah's expression changed from anger to shock and disbelief. She tried to process the news, her eyes widening as she realized the weight of what I had just told her. For a moment, the room fell silent. Finn tried to signal for me to stop the conversation, probably feeling regretful. But I reminded him that just moments ago he was siding with Deborah and blaming me for something that didn't happen. I told him he didn't have the right to ask me to stop. Caught in the middle of family drama and shocking news, he looked torn, glancing nervously between Deborah and me. The tension in the room was thick as everyone tried to process what was happening. I then told both Finn and Deborah to leave the house. I had enough of their drama and couldn't tolerate it anymore. I told Finn not to come back until he apologized for believing his sister's lies. Finn didn't argue and escorted his sister out of the house. My in-laws have been calling me worried about what happened. I haven't checked their messages or answered their calls. I feel really tired after what happened with my sister-in-law causing trouble in my marriage. Update 1. Thanks to everyone for your comments. Following your advice, I decided to file a complaint with HR against the coworker who talked to Deborah about the supposed affair with Matt. I haven't talked to this coworker directly because I don't want any more conflicts. Despite what some of you said, I don't think Deborah is smart enough to make up a whole screenshot by herself. Hopefully, HR will find out the truth when they talk to my coworker about the screenshot. Update 2. It's been a tough week since Deborah tried to ruin my marriage. Thanks to everyone who supported me, I'm still feeling unsure about everything. I haven't been sleeping well and really need some quiet days to rest. HR finally talked to my coworker about the situation. Turns out Deborah told her some twisted stories and she believed them. The coworker admitted right away that she made up the story about me and Matt, thinking it wouldn't cause any trouble. Our workplace, known for its strict rules against gossip, punished her severely. She got a 1-month suspension, showing how serious it is to spread rumors without proof. This was a lesson for everyone about the dangers of believing and spreading false information. This cleared my name and showed how harmful rumors can be. Finn tried to contact me several times during the week. Yesterday, I agreed to meet with him and his parents. I told Finn firmly that I didn't want Deborah there, and he agreed. He assured me she wasn't there when I arrived. Finn looked sorry as we talked with his parents about the problems Deborah caused. Finn apologized sincerely, admitting he had let his emotions get the best of him that night. After reflecting on the situation, he realized how absurd Deborah's accusations were. His parents, equally upset, apologized for how Deborah had affected our relationship. Finn admitted that his loyalty to family had clouded his judgment during the argument. He confessed he had acted impulsively and regretted not trusting me. Finn promised to talk to Deborah and set boundaries with her. We discussed going to couples counseling to rebuild trust and deal with the aftermath of her accusations. His parents offered their support, agreeing that the family needed to come together to fix the mess. Finn understood why I told Deborah about his parents' will. He knew I was trying to hurt her back for what she did to us, but he didn't hold it against me. His parents also didn't mind that I told her, as they were planning to talk to her about it anyway. While I appreciated their honesty, I knew I couldn't let Deborah keep causing problems in my life. I decided to cut ties with her to protect myself and our marriage. I explained that Deborah's negative influence had become too much, and I needed to focus on our marriage and my own well-being. Finn supported my decision, realizing we needed to distance ourselves from her behavior. His parents were a little sad about it, but agreed that Deborah had gone too far, and I had the right to end my relationship with her. Since our conversation, I've been feeling much happier and lighter. Finn is coming back home tomorrow after his short work trip, and I've really missed him despite our fight. I'm excited to spend time with him again. Update 3. It's been 5 months since my last update. As expected, Deborah reached out to me a few months ago. In her message, she didn't acknowledge the pain she caused us. Instead, she justified her baseless accusations by saying she was trying to protect her brother. She still insists that I'm a threat to their family. The message was full of accusations, like saying I'm making her brother avoid her and that I've ruined her family. She painted herself as the victim while ignoring the chaos she caused in the first place. Deborah's lack of genuine remorse or understanding of the seriousness of her actions made it clear to me that staying away from her was the right decision. It seemed like she couldn't see how her behavior affected others. In the months that followed, Finn and I focused on rebuilding trust in our marriage. We went to couples counseling to deal with the effects of Deborah's accusations. The sessions helped us talk better and understand each other's feelings. Gradually, our relationship started to get better. We stuck to our decision to cut ties with Deborah, even when Finn's parents tried to help. We wanted to protect our emotional well-being, and we knew staying away from Deborah was the best way to do that. Life has become more peaceful for us, with work, family, and enjoying time together being our main focus. We found comfort in each other, leaving behind the chaos Deborah caused. Finn and I have become stronger as a couple, facing challenges together. Though Deborah's actions left scars, our love for each other remains strong. Choosing to put our marriage first instead of staying in a toxic relationship has brought stability and happiness into our lives.